So we're joined by the club's head of recruitment, Darren Taylor. Darren, thanks for joining us, and how are you?
I'm good, thanks, Sean. Good afternoon to you. Good to see you. Been a while.
Yeah, we appreciate you taking your time to join us this afternoon. I suppose as an introduction, can you talk us through your role at the club? Obviously, you're head of recruitment, but what does that entail for you?
Yeah, the role of head of recruitment, it's obviously to be the connection between myself and the manager to bringing in players at the club. There's no secret. It's been a large scale overhaul of players with the initial change from part time to full time and then now to full time professional. So it's involved a big kind of overhaul of players. So it was seen as a full time job, and it's just the beginning of the journey, Sean. So we need to be looking out there for players to bring to the club to take on our journey. So.
And I suppose just before we go on to look at what maybe a normal day entails, can you talk us through your background in football? Obviously, you've had plenty of roles before joining the club, and you've spent quite a lot of time with Ray at various clubs as well.
Yeah. I mean, prior to joining Ray, I'd obviously played football, but not at any great level, to be fair. I did manage to play on Hampden when I was at Montrose, which was always good, to be fair. But I'd predominantly played junior football, and I'd got an injury in my late 20s, and it kind of, it stopped me playing. So I got myself more involved in a bit of coaching, but certainly in scouting. So I was doing a bit of scouting for English teams through another friend of mine, and I was enjoying that side of things, to be fair. So we did that for a couple of years. Raymond had obviously got the job at Brechin City, and he'd asked me to join initially as a first team coach. So I'd taken that role on. It was a part-time role. I had my day job, and it kind of just kick-started from there, to be fair. We had a great time at Brechin. The manager then got the Wraith Rovers job. I joined them there again, albeit on a part-time basis. But I suppose in those two initial roles, I was getting more involved in bringing players to the club and speaking to managers, speaking to other clubs about loan players, and watching games and that. So it probably developed from there. It then took me to Dundee United, and again, my first role at Dundee United was part of the first team coaching department, and again it was part-time. But when I left my work about a year later, I took on the full-time role of head of recruitment at Dundee United and football operations. So that was probably the beginning of the role I'm in just now, albeit that I dabbled in it at my previous clubs. We then moved on to Morton, and I took up the role of assistant manager there, but also being involved in the recruitment and stuff as well. It's a role that you just get involved. You do a bit of everything in that, to be fair. And it then took me to Falkirk again as assistant manager, and then to ultimately here at Queen's Park. I'd came to Queen's Park on a part-time basis in the first instance, and again I was back working, but it's came to this role. I'm delighted to be in the full-time position as head of recruitment, and it's such an exciting time to be doing it as well.
Yeah, I mean, I was just going to touch on that. A lot of clubs at League 2 level, maybe even League 1 level, wouldn't have a head of recruitment as such. How important is it for us, given what's going on at the club just now and the changes that the club are going through?
Yeah, I think you're right to say that. I would agree that League 1 and 2, that they'll have these people, but probably in a part-time role, but certainly with the plans we'll have at the club, I think it was essential that we put someone in that role. Delighted to be in that role, and I think if you are going to, we do have serious ambitions to kick on, and I think that's certainly the manager would look for somebody to be in that role as well, because there's so much goes on in the game, week to week. And to be dabbling in it or dipping your toe in it and not doing it probably 100% is not giving it the time that it needs. So it was kind of recognised that we wanted to do it properly.
And I suppose under normal circumstances, how would a typical day look in your role?
Good question. Normal circumstances, I would go with a Saturday. Start from a Saturday, Sean. I'd be at a game. It wouldn't be a Queen's Park game. So you'd be at a game, you'd be watching targets, you'd be looking at players, you'd be hearing the people available, you'd be speaking to agents, clubs. You maybe know that guys are out of contract. So your Saturday would be consumed with that, certainly looking at, talent. Your Sunday, for me personally, a Sunday is usually a day where I would, absorb everything that's went on the Saturday, sometimes in the Sunday, and you would analyse that. You would look at games, you would look at players, you'd look at teams who's playing, who's not playing. You'd speak to agents, managers. There's always information to get. You would then, again, in normal times, a Monday or a Tuesday probably would be development football. Certainly, your under 20s at your Premier League level. So you would take in you could potentially take in a game there in the afternoon and in the evening. Your Tuesday would then be a game where it's probably, a midweek game as we're probably waiting to encounter now. And you'd be at games like that. That might be a Tuesday, that might be a Wednesday. I'd be organising the scouts. We'll have scouts and opposition analysts. Mm-hmm. So you'd be organising their games. You'd analyse the information that they'd be bringing you from the previous week. You'd be organising them for the up and coming weeks. And then you'd be looking, again, you're always talking to people. You're never off the phone in this game. But we do have, tools like Y-Scout. So you're picking up games from all over the place. In a normal day, I could be, and certainly with Dundee United role, I'd be going to England, I'd be going to Ireland, I'd be going, I went to Europe a couple of times. So you would be doing all these sort of things. Certainly at the moment and under the current criteria where it's all just home-based, But that would be your typical week probably.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned Y-Scout there. That was one of the things I was going to come on to. And under the current restrictions, how important of tools like Y-Scout and that became when you're not able to do that travelling?
Yeah, I mean, in fairness, it's an important tool anyway, but it's certainly more important now because of the restrictions. I'm in a thankful position at the moment that I'm still, being able to go to games. I'll be at a game tonight. I'll be at a game at the weekend, probably 2 games, Saturday, Sunday. But anything else that's going on, particularly in Scotland at the moment, which is kind of an area where we're really working, and you're able to pick up the games. And again, going back to my Sunday kind of day, you're fortunate now that most clubs have YouTube channels. We'll have a very good one ourselves where we're getting match highlights and that. So I'll tend to scour them throughout the leagues, and it always gives you an indication that you're able to see people, you hear things, people score a few goals and all that sort of thing, and you're able to capture it there. But Y-Scout obviously expands that into greater detail and more leagues in that as well. So it's very, very important, to be fair.
And I suppose looking further forward, your role obviously is based around forward planning. How difficult is the uncertainty around the suspension of the game just now made your role in terms of planning for the rest of this season and, more importantly, looking ahead to next season?
Yeah, listen, I would concede it has been difficult, Sean, but, in the grand scheme of things, it's a difficult time for everyone at the moment. And the world's, such a hard place to live in at the moment. And I think first and foremost, there's millions of people lost their life during this thing. So my difficulties in not being able to forward plan are paled into insignificance with what's going on. But certainly we do have a role, and the game needs to keep moving. It does mean I'd probably be looking now at players to bring in on trial. I know that working with the gaffer closely, he always, if he can, likes to look at the guy in the flesh, bring him in for a week. I'm talking about trialist players and that we might get an opportunity to look at. There was guys coming in January and February to play games, and guys that were probably out of contract that we were still able to sign. But that was all knocked on the head because the building was closed, to be fair. We weren't allowed to play games. So that certainly made it difficult, Sean. But in the grand scheme of things, you still crack on. You certainly wouldn't let it be a disadvantage to you because there is so many other things that you could be doing. I'm actively trying to bring in players now, and the loan window's extended in Scotland, which is a great sign for the fact that football could be just around the corner, which we're all pleased with. So I'm actively working on that at the moment, and that will run to the end of March certainly. So again, it's probably not the way we would do work previously, but there's still an opportunity to do stuff. And
you mentioned bringing in trialists back, certainly towards the end of last year when we were playing. How much has COVID impacted on the ability to bring guys in and be able to see them in the flesh?
Yeah, that's probably been the biggest impact, Sean, I would suggest, because we look far and wide. We've brought Canis up from England, we've brought Will in from Australia via America, so we do spread our net. We're not just looking in the one pot. We'll look at everything. I've got a lot of good contacts in the game that are English based, Irish based, when I was at Dundee United, I spent a lot of time in England and Ireland, so you still keep in contact with these guys, albeit that you're at a different club. It's the kind of same thing. So you keep in touch with them. They're always offering to send players over to you. The first thing now at the moment is the borders are closed. So, you know, that in itself's a huge disadvantage. The ones even local to it, we don't have a platform for them to, you know, we've got a lot of good young kids, Sean, coming through the club. And, you know, ideally the manager would like to be having these guys in training just now, especially at this time of year. And that's a door that's currently closed, you know, but we'll open all these doors when the time's right, and, you know, it's a safer place to do so.
And just bringing things back to this season from a personal perspective, obviously we were 5 points clear at the top. Still a lot of football to be played at the point the suspension came in, but how do you feel things had went up until that point?
Yeah, I think, you know, touching on the 5 points clear, you know, we were absolutely pleased with that. You know, that was a great position to be in. And in fairness, at that point, going up to the Albion Rovers game that was cancelled on the 2nd of January, we were looking to kick on in the new year. We felt we were in a good place. The boys had done, you know, very well. It was a difficult time for them. It's a difficult time for everyone, but it was a new team together. There was a bit of upheaval at the ground with the construction work and that, so things weren't normal. The guys were coming and not showering and all that sort of thing. So it was difficult. So to be 5 points clear, we, you know, 6 clean sheets out of 9 games in the league, there was no real complaints. There's always room for improvement. We wanted to do better. You know, we'd drawn a few games, but we really wanted to kick on. We were happy with the 7 wins, and, you know, we're quite happy. I think that one of the saddest things that when we did stop was probably our most disappointing fixture was the cup tie against Queen of the South. You know, I don't think it was a true reflection on where we were at the time. It was a difficult game. It was an actual very even game at the time, Sean, up until the 45th minute. I don't think there was anything between the teams, and it ended, you know, not too well for us. So for the football to be stopped at that time was you know, was a big blow for us. And in fairness to Queen of the South, they've kicked on, and they're sitting now 3rd in the Scottish Championship. So we were a bit deflated at the time. We don't want to lose any games, but to stop the season at that point was particularly difficult, because I think it took away from the fact that we'd had a satisfactory start to the league. And, you know, going into that now, we really just want to kick on from where we left off in the league. The league was always our #1 target. We always like to do well in the cup, but certainly the whole thing this year is, you know, to get ourselves out of the league and into League One for next season.
Absolutely, and obviously I think to speak for the majority of people when they say we're hopeful that an announcement of the resumption of football might not be too far away. That'll present, I suppose, from a coaching perspective and a backroom team perspective, it'll present its own difficulties in terms of midweek Saturday games, but I suppose that must be a challenge that everybody's looking forward to in terms of just getting the game back.
Absolutely. If you tell me this afternoon that we're back Saturday, Tuesday, Saturday, we'll bite the hand off you. We're all champing at the bit, you know, and in fairness to the manager and the staff and all the players, they're working extremely hard under the circumstances that we're doing. Laurie and the gaffer have probably told you, you know, what's going on, but they're working every day. We'll have Zooms every day. They go away with their programme, they're returning the results. You know, they're working extremely hard. It's been very difficult for them mentally, as it has been for us all, but we've got to remain professional and focused on that. When we do get back, we pick up from where we left off, and I'd be delighted to get the announcement. Well, I was hanging by you're hanging by the phone anyway at this time of year, but Friday would seem to be a D-Day for the league going back. It then fell into the weekend. We were kind of thinking Monday would be D-Day. It's now Tuesday. I'm reading the press regularly, and we just hope the box gets ticked sometime very soon and we get back, because we certainly are champing at the bit.
Dan, thank you very much for your time. Really appreciate you joining us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sean. Any time, appreciate the time.